Low ball in, Harry Wilson. Yeah! He's done it! Oh yes! Oh yes! Across the face of goal, headed in. Yes! He's done it! What an introduction! Off you go!
Hello and welcome to the That's So Craven podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham, for all highs and all lows and all disappointments. This is the place to tune in. We're here today, and I'm here with Mark, who I will introduce in a moment, but I should go around the houses and actually talk about all the people who are hiding under rocks today. We got Skibby, who's probably hiding in some gutter after an all-nighter and a bender. Couldn't even raise him for, hey Skibby, how hungover are you? Can you make the chat? Hasn't responded. I've got my wayward youngest son, single at the moment, dating, and found himself with a bit of luck, and at the last minute told me, hey, he's talking to me quietly from the spare room of some house somewhere, and he says, hey Dad, if this is about the podcast, sorry I can't do it, I'm stuck and lucky. Oh dear. But you know, ain't it always the same when we have a win, there's a full house, there's people scrambling to get on board, and when we have a tough defeat and some bitter pills to swallow and some tough stuff to suck up, it gets difficult to find good men and good voices. But how about that for a wrap, Mark? That's your intro. And that's how we define you today. Mark, thanks for joining me.
A good intro. Thanks for that, Elton. I mean, we lined up a few people and just shoved them right in front of the bus. So that's a strong start. But I am neither drunk nor am I getting lucky. So that's why I'm here today to sort of go through this therapeutic session, try and make some cogent points about what happened during the game. But yeah, we're gonna find a way through this together. This is gonna be good. It's gonna be healing. There's a fair bit to talk about. So let's get this show on the road.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think we have to look at it in a positive way. We're the ones who get to do the therapy. The other guys are resorting to substance abuse and just wayward behavior in general to try and get them through the day and through the week. And we will do it in a structured and organized way. And hopefully we'll see who wins. We'll see who comes out the other end of this. Maybe we're the idiots. Where is the beer? Anyway, we need to talk about a game of football that happened yesterday. But before we do that, can I tell you about a Discord channel that the That's So Craven family belong to and convene in and commune in? It's a great place to be. It's free. All you have to do is sign up, and it's a place where Fulham fans can talk about all kinds of things. Just generally chatting Fulham. We talk about transfer news. We may or may not even have a live feed on match day. Who knows? But it's a great place to be, and some exciting things happening, which I'm not quite ready to talk about, but some exciting things coming for our Discord channel as well. A little bit of interaction where you get to have your say, and we might just get to talk about what you've had to say on the podcast. More about that later. So, Mark, rather than a Q&A session, as we discussed before coming on here, I think it's time for us to have a bit of a fireside chat and just have a quiet muse about kind of what happened yesterday. We've had a few too many of these days this year for my liking, where we kind of dream big about what might be. You know, the idea of doing the double on Chelsea was probably just a little bit, maybe a bridge too far. But what a moment that might have been. I mean, I suppose we should be grateful that we've had one of the finest moments of the season in beating Chelsea for the first time in so many years. that perhaps doing the double was just too much to wish for. But really, in terms of the way we started yesterday, it kind of gave us quite a lot of hope. Let's before we even talk about that, Mark, let's talk about the starting lineup. And gee, there were some surprises in that starting lineup. I guess it wasn't all Marco's choice because clearly there was some issues prior to kickoff. But let's give me your thoughts on what you felt going to the game as you saw that squad announced.
I thought the Tete start was brave. I thought it made a lot of sense. He looked good. Probably one of the few positives we can take away from yesterday. Not seeing Muniz and ESR on the team sheet was worrying. I think in the previous After Dark pod, all of us were in agreement that Muniz should start. We didn't know whether he would start, but he'd definitely be part of the squad. Believe him and ESR were out due to illness. But yeah, all in all, a pretty strong team. A little thin on the bench, like we said, without Muniz and ESR. Kenny getting his start is good. I didn't have too many worries about that, actually. I thought maybe he would have been brought in like Liverpool. We start Castagna and we have Kenny come in and form a back five if we're trying to hold out for the last 20 minutes.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought might happen.
That could have made sense, but he did himself proud. Still hasn't signed the contract, so if he's gunning for that move to Ajax, he's Dutch. It kind of makes sense. That could work. But all in all, I wasn't too distraught with how the team was set up. I was pleased to see Cesc get another chance as well. But all in all, pretty strong starting lineup. A few missing names. But yeah, this is something I think it's kind of worth taking a little detour on. I look at our team, and I think our team is a very well-oiled machine, right? I think we perform way better as the sum of all its parts than individual contributors, right? But I don't really see any star players there. I think ESR was meant to be that star player. He hasn't really shown up. If we want to point out players that have done well throughout the season, yes, we have Bassi, we have Leno to an extent, we had Robbo for the first half, we had Iwobi for the first half of the season, but there's no one absolutely terrifying. And I think this is what outdid us yesterday. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. It'll be good to get your take on that. But when you look at Chelsea, they may not be they played reasonably well, very well in the second half, but they may not be as in sync together, but they have 3 or 4 players who at any moment could just pop off and absolutely wreck a defense. So I think that was the difference. I think the money really showed yesterday.
Arguably more than 3 or 4, to be honest. There's some pretty serious names in all of that. No, I couldn't agree more. And without undermining our players who have performed, I think almost, if you want to look at it in a kind of an XG, not an XG, but sort of relative to their capability, I think our players, Marco Silva, has got our players to perform over the last couple of years at an incredible rating. They are a brilliantly organized machine, and on their day, they're clearly capable of beating absolutely anyone in the Premier League. Well, any team we haven't done that to is Man City, but we've beaten. And we have just about taken a game to everyone else. But on the subject of Kenny, I'm a massive fan of Kenny Tete. I just love what he brings. I love his attitude. One-on-one. There was a little moment yesterday in the game. I think it was possibly in the second half where, and I can't even remember who his opponent was, but he was on a little one-on-one in the corner down by the hammy end. The hammy end, and he just he shoves his opponent aside. Just the absolute opportune moment. Might have been a difficult one for you to see, Mark, on the other side of the ground, but just really, really good one-on-one kind of defender who's got a bit about him going forward as well. Having said all of that, I was surprised that he was judged ready to come back. And he
Mhm.
didn't disappoint. He obviously couldn't make it through the whole game, which isn't surprising. But I'm always keen to see Kenny Tete. I'm also a believer, and I don't know if this is just wishful thinking and optimism, but I'm also a believer, or one of those in the camp, that a firing Kenny Tete makes for a better Anderson. I think
Yeah.
Anderson needs a very, very capable and good, defensively good right back to bring out his best capabilities in the side, and I think Kenny Tete does that for him. I was disappointed not to see Mooney's on the team sheet, but not even being on the bench meant that there must have been some sort of serious problem, whether it was an injury or illness we didn't know. To be honest, if I'm really honest, I wasn't disappointed that ESR wasn't in the squad. No, not in a filthy way, but just thinking about what I expect from him every week, I just have learned that I can't rely on him, which is disappointing. I have to say that I thought in the first half, I thought Raul did a really good job. I thought he was very handy. I thought he was controlling. I don't love everything about his game, but for what he does, dropping deep and actually controlling the ball, chesting the ball down in front of him and controlling it and then laying it off, I thought he did that really, really well yesterday. And I thought he had a pretty fine first half. I guess nothing that much else to say. I don't think it was any great surprise in Ryan Sessegnon getting a start. He's probably earned that over the last couple of weeks. Was it the right game for him? Yeah, he didn't have a bad first half. I thought he looked okay.
Well, I think our goal came from him, right? Our goal came from him picking the pocket of one of their players. So absolutely,
absolutely. And I thought what he was just switching around and just generally, I thought he was very, very good yesterday. But I guess let's try and follow this through chronologically. I feel like there are so many different things we can jump aside and talk about. I guess I start with the first disallowed goal, which that did happen first, didn't it? Yeah, of course it did. I think that was like the 3rd minute. I mean, I thought, here we go, we're off to an absolute flyer here. But obviously, there were a couple of players. I think at least one player offside in different phases of that move, and I think potentially a couple of players offside. But nevertheless, I took that as being a very positive, a positive note from us, that we started with great intent, and we were very, very aggressive, and we looked pretty good in the first 10, 15 minutes, don't you think?
Oh, 100%. Very aggressive, very quick. Okay, maybe the execution was a little bit off. That's why we were offside. But Chelsea were all over the place, right? I think we had 3 attempts on goal, or we had multiple shots on goal, and one of them finally went in. Obviously, the phase of play was offside, so we didn't get anything out of it. But perhaps that was a bit of a wake-up call for them, that, we weren't going to take this lying down and we were going to take the game to them. I think it's really impressive, right? I'm going to come back to it several times, especially because, 1, it's Chelsea, and 2, the amount of money that they've spent is absolutely ludicrous. But for all that value on the pitch, right, little old Fulham is still taking it to them and making them look ridiculous, right? And it takes a whole, we'll come on to it later, but it takes probably one of the worst, if not the worst, substitution I've ever seen from Silva, as well as a ton of individual talent for them to finally get their goals. But yeah, we started really brightly. And I love that about this Fulham side. We just need to give Marco the tools, right? We need to stop giving him the bargain bin, last minute find 50% off players. I know they're doing their best. I know we find value that way. but for God's sake, just back the man with some quality, right? And then maybe we're talking about a different game. Maybe we're already 3-0 up in the first half, because we had other chances as well. I'm sure we'll get into it, but we had the offside goal, we had the Iwobi goal, we had, I don't know, did you catch that corner where I think Berger must have missed it by like a centimeter or something?
Oh yeah,
it was a wicked cross. We had some pretty duff corners, but that was a great corner. I think that really demoralizes them, because what was that? Probably a few minutes after the Iwobi goal. I know we're jumping all over the place, but
it's
talking
fine.
about our ops, you know.
No, absolutely. Mark, you could do whatever you like. You know, no one else turned up. Mark, you can say whatever you like. You can drag this wherever you want to. You can do whatever you like. No, let's talk about that Iwobi goal. A great move, great assist from Cess. He had a couple of options, and in the fraction of a second, he picked the right pass and picked Iwobi deepest of all the options at the edge of the box. Great pass, great cutback. I mean, you know, I guess you could argue it was a regulation pass, but he picked the right man out. And Iwobi's got a bit to do. He's got a little bit of traffic there, and onto his left foot. Does really, really well. He absolutely hits it really well. And if you look at the camera position behind Iwobi, he's got a fairly narrow window there to slot that in the corner. Does really, really well, and picks his point and does well. Look, I thought that was a great goal, and very, very happy to see Ryan Sessegnon get yet another assist. And once again prove that despite grievances in the transfer market, and despite how badly that could have gone as a vibes-only transfer, well, not transfer, but free transfer, it's actually looking like a pretty good move. And I'm pretty optimistic about the future with Ryan Sessegnon back in a Fulham shirt.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. I will put my hands up and I'll say I was one of those people that when Ryan came back, I thought it was purely for the vibes. I'm so glad to be proven wrong. He's showing a hunger. He shows high football IQ. Great for us. Iwobi as well, I want to discuss, because yes, he scored an amazing goal when you look back. Pretty much almost inch perfect. I think he has, like you said, a very small window. Has to get through a few defenders, has to beat Sanchez as well. But before that, I thought there were some really wayward crosses. Like this is a frustration that I have with Iwobi. And perhaps it's because he's been overplayed. He must be shattered because he feels like the first name on the team sheet next to Bassi and Leno and Robbo, when they're fit and available. I took a buddy of mine who's an Arsenal fan to the game with me yesterday. And the funny thing is, as that move's happening, so Iwobi had just screwed up a cross like 30 seconds earlier. And then Cess gets it, he picks the pocket, he runs down, he passes it, he lays it off to Iwobi to take the shot. And my mate goes, "Not Iwobi!" and then Iwobi scores, which is kind of a piece of instant karma, which I found hilarious. Other than that, I think this is where we need more rotation pieces and good Imagine if the people we bring in the summer are Iwobi quality or better. Can you imagine how terrifying that attack would be? It'd be amazing. So he did well. I mean, he got his goal, so there's only so much you can complain about it. But there are a few crosses that were just didn't really come off, and you kind of want better if we're top half Prem in a derby match, aiming for higher.
I agree. I've got a kind of funny view on Iwobi. I love Alex Iwobi, but I find myself many a time thinking, geez, that was a shit cross. And then moments later, he'll put one on a sixpence.
Yeah,
perfectly placed, perfectly weighted, like that ball into Sessegnon last week. And so he's absolutely got it in him, but he's a bit inconsistent. And that's on his right foot. I'm calling him inconsistent, but for him to then go and pull off a shot like that on his left foot, he hit it very sweetly. it is a frustration. It's a real frustration, and I guess it's kind of what it is to be a Fulham supporter in a squad that just isn't quite there. I don't think that's unfair. Yeah. So we go 1-0 up. At the 20-minute mark, looking pretty damn good, and I really thought, I thought that we even had a chance to potentially go in 2 goals up at the break. I really felt like it was on. I thought we were really going to be on yesterday. I really, really did. Not just out of pure hope, but I really felt that we kind of had the momentum. And I think this is one of the reasons why perhaps you do select a Ryan Sessegnon. He's a Fulham man, and I feel like players like Sess possibly help the team actually lift to the occasion that is a London derby like that.
Yeah.
I have to also say props to Pereira. I thought his effort in the first half, his general hunger was absolutely brilliant. His press was incredible. His afters were a joy to watch, and he was quite a handful. I thought he was very, very good in the first half yesterday. What do you think?
Agreed. I mean, he did everything that was asked of him ever since that interview gone wrong. Which
truly,
he's really, at the very least, we can say he's been a professional, right? He's worked really hard. He's given it everything. We don't see any sort of micro level sulking. And I think this is the bare minimum that Fulham fans want to see. We want to see effort, right? Obviously, it's frustrating when someone's inconsistent or they just miss an obvious layoff or something like that. But so long as they work their socks off, that gives them like a floor of like credibility that we're happy to work with. And maybe this is why we're on ESR's back quite a bit, right? It's not to say that he doesn't work hard, but the way he is perceived is as not working hard. And I think that really frustrates the fans. So, back to Pereira, yeah, he did well. I don't think we can really look at too many players in the squad and think they didn't really give it their all. But yeah, just a deeply frustrating game where once again we're taking it to in a derby match, a squad, a team that's filled with star power, and we're pretty much, at least for the first half, I'd say better than them. Second half was a bit of a disaster, and we'll get into that. But really, really proud of the boys for that first half.
Yeah, something we were talking about off air. It's a little easy to jump onto Marco Silva and air frustration that he does certain things or doesn't do certain things. And we'll come on to talk about his substitutions, and there really was one howler today. But when I look at what Chelsea did at halftime yesterday, it's just something we do not have the firepower to be that confident as to make changes at halftime to try and change a game. We'd have to be 5 goals down at halftime before Marco Silva is pushed and forced to making a change, where he thinks there's nothing to lose here. I've just got to try something else. Whereas, managers of teams with world-class players on the bench can literally just move the chess pieces around and try something, a nuanced change, make a nuanced change to the squad, which absolutely doesn't destabilize anything. And they're bringing on just a slightly different version of quality. And, the change they made at halftime, I'm saying absolutely changed the fortune of Chelsea. I thought they did recover towards the end of that first half. And it was, we were far from all over them, but they certainly were back in the game. It was far more even towards the back end of the half. Made a couple of changes at halftime. Malo Gusto comes on and Jadon Sancho comes on at halftime. And for me, it gives them some zip and a definite change in attacking threat. And rather than your thoughts, Mark, on how those changes impacted the game, because I think they're pretty obvious, your thoughts, feelings, and emotions on, our inability to be able to make that kind of simple, slight change without any fear of, any fear or anxiety that we're changing the balance of the side.
Yeah. Great point. I mean, look, we've had Cottage Tactico on with us before, and this really resonated, though it's pretty self-evident, and we mention it pretty much every other part. But Marco's a big believer in Plan A, right? And Plan A has to go absolutely horrendously wrong, like 5 goals down at halftime, for Plan A to be binned, and we go with Plan B. But and I can understand the logic behind that, because if things are going well for you, if you've been the slightly more dominant side for the first half and you're winning 1-0, then do you really envision a need for a change? But I do think sometimes, we've definitely said he leaves the subs a little bit too late, which he does. Perhaps that's because he doesn't have players on the bench that he really trusts. Perhaps because we don't have a Plan B. But definitely we need to be more responsive, because if we logic that out, right, we have Plan A. It's gone well for us, but the opposition has shifted their strategy. That doesn't mean Plan A is going to be equally as effective, right? If they don't shift their players and we don't shift our players, then you can kind of rationalize that it's working in our favor, right? Like Fulham versus a low block team, and we huff and puff and then we lose, right? The low block doesn't get changed because it's worked for like 80 minutes, so they're going to keep it going until the end of the game, right? But I think good managers do take action quickly and urgently and have a couple more tricks up their sleeves. And it's just weird that we don't utilize Adama as much as we should with Anderson's crosses, or we don't have other, removing Muniz, I think really sets us back in terms of our attacking play, because he brings a completely different dimension. He's a bully. He brings the entropy. We know that and we love that. So, maybe Silva had less options there. But it's just a bit frustrating to watch. And, I guess we might as well get into it with the subs. The one, I think the big one that we're gonna talk about, and pretty much everyone in the chat was in agreement here. I guess the one, I should have checked this earlier. I don't think Lukic was on a yellow, right? I think Burgo was on a yellow.
No,
yeah,
I don't believe. Yeah.
So Lukic for Kearney, that happened. I turned to my mate and I said, we may lose off of this, because you're taking an 8-6, mostly defensive player, right, off for Kearney, who did not have a good time of it at Bournemouth. Very talented player, great servant to the club, but just absolutely the wrong game for him to be on against a young and hard-pressing Chelsea team who kind of momentum had shifted. And I guess that's why you make your subs, right? You make your subs to try and you realize momentum has shifted. Silva likes to say, I bring in Kearney to calm the game down, because he's, a bit more of a tactician. He can place balls. He's very calm in possession. But, man, he just got torn a new one. I don't know if it was as bad on TV as it was live, but for their
it's very obvious. It was very bad. Obvious.
I'm the most deluded. Go ahead.
No. I was going to say, I think it's an unfortunate confluence, or it's very difficult when you are at the stage of your career and the kind of player that Tom Kearney represents to this Fulham squad, right? Look, he's absolute twilight years. He's done very well for us for most of this season in coming on, but it's difficult to really pick it. But I think he's off the bench form has dropped off. He looks a bit slower. He was turning like a tanker yesterday. He just was so ineffective off the ball. And he was getting run ragged. And a number of times, I don't know if it's as simple as saying his defensive work was just poor. I think he was just not up to it. Like you say, it was a bit of an unfair match to put a 35-year-old aging player who's never the quickest anyway against a pretty dangerous and vital young midfield. I think you're asking for such a lot of trouble. And I understand that Marco felt like he had to do something to really get us back in the game. And what was the minute? He came on at the 72nd minute, and oh no, they scored. They scored in the 83rd minute. So he's made that change to in the 72nd minute. A little bit early for my liking to actually think you can play out the next 20 plus stoppage time and control a marauding Chelsea side. Not quite marauding, but they were certainly in the ascendancy and looking more likely to score a goal. Yep. And so, and I think I'm going to say that Lukic, I thought he had a pretty good game up to that point. Actually, I think he must have been somewhat surprised to see his name up on the board. It's been taken off because Berger was probably quieter than Lukic, but in fact, Jack sitting next to me on the sofa was saying, "Oh, gee, Berger's had a pretty quiet game. He's hardly touched the ball, but he was popping up every now and then." And the two of them together, I thought were doing a pretty good. That's Berger and Lukic. I thought we're doing a pretty good job in midfield. Perhaps not controlling the game as you'd like your, sort of champion midfielder to be doing, but I think we're being a bit unrealistic about Tom Cairney's abilities against a side like Chelsea to really do that. So it was a confusing substitution. I mean, no one ever sighs or groans when Tom Cairney starts warming up or starts getting his shirt on to come on the field, because everyone's optimistic that he might actually make a positive contribution. But I think it was moments after coming on the ground, we had the confirmation that this was not a good move. And in fact, you'd argue that this was actually suicidal and marked. We were probably about to be overrun anyway. But you sense that we could have held on and managed the game better if that change wasn't made. I thought that was a real killer blow. And as you said earlier, the Discord was alight with complaints, and rightfully so, that Marco's actually he's actually scored a bit of an own goal here. And we've got to accept and acknowledge that was actually a tactical error.
It was the biggest error I've seen in Marco's entire time at Fulham. If even a pleb like me who goes off very basic things, like he's a defensive player, he's an offensive player. When we're under a huge amount of stress, you don't bring off a perfectly fine non-yellow carded CDM or 8 for an aging 10. You just that makes zero sense in my head, especially if we're going to leave AP on, right? Maybe an AP straight switch, that's still weird because AP was still working really hard and maybe he was a bit tired, but I'd prefer AP's work rate over Tom defensively. But
well, I think interestingly, there was no way AP was going to come off. There was no one realistically to replace him. No, the ESR not around. No Josh King. I suppose Iwobi could have dropped into the middle, but that hasn't been a thing for quite some time. So AP was going to be on all day. I was okay with that. I kind of realized that very early on, and I thought I was fine with that. 6 minutes later, after that Lukic for Cairney substitution, Marco makes another change, really trying to find a way through at this point, and in a double substitution, takes off Brian Sessegnon for Wilson. Okay, I think everyone was very excited for that, and swaps Kenny Tete for Castagna. not a surprise at all. Kenny had a pretty good game, but couldn't possibly have been expected to make the full 90. And I was kind of okay with that because Castagna perfectly good to see out the rest of the game. And, with fresh legs, why not? Totally okay with that. Cess for Wilson, we haven't seen Harry Wilson after his quite tremendous form, but that was way back in, January, last time he played.
Yeah.
And so he's obviously had a very, very significant rehab program, and it's always questionable as to how someone's going to come back from that. I thought that was perhaps a little early, unless Cess was cooked. I know he did get a knock. He went down with a knee injury. The physios were working on him for quite some time. I'm not sure if that was obvious from where you guys were sitting, but it wasn't
he was
looking at.
Yep.
He did come up okay, and he was moving okay, but you never quite know what injury is done, and particularly to a knee, you've got to be careful on that. So I guess not surprising that he came off, and in fact, I don't recall at what moment in the game Cess went down, but it could well have been around the time that just before Kearney came on, and the instruction from the bench may well have been for Cess to just hold on and just see if he could make it through till around the 80th minute, when they saw, I guess, the earliest point they were comfortable bringing Harry Wilson on, given his fitness levels, and then of course, Harry Wilson, he didn't have a great impact on the game. Even if he was to grow into the game and have an impact, 2 minutes after that substitution, of course, 5 minutes after that substitution, Tyreek George scores just from, I guess, just a little bit of individual brilliance. I don't know. I don't even remember what happened in the build up there. I just saw him turn around and put the ball in the back of the net. Can you just remind me of what the build up was there?
I went through the highlights.
Yeah.
I went through the highlights. I definitely muted it because I don't want to hear the commentators just swoon over how a billion gets you squeaking out a one goal win against your much more financially strapped rivals. But I think they did a movement down the right. I remember at that moment, I screamed, "Take the yellow." I think either TC or someone got their pocket picked, right? And we lost the ball in a somewhat dangerous area. I wasn't really worried about their free kicks. I think they had one and they sent it straight at Leno. And I was joking with my mate that he was aiming for the goalkeeper. So I think at that point, 10 minutes to go, we're in a really dangerous passage of play. TC has been blowing for the last 10 minutes and not contributing much. Take the yellow. Be cynical. We just not cynical. I know I stress this often on this podcast, but it really irritates me when teams like Bournemouth, Newcastle, Villa, Forest, when they're under the cosh in the last 10 minutes, they are cynical as hell. They take the yellows. Palace takes the yellows, right? They time waste. They find injuries. The goalkeeper's crocked his arm. We are so damn honest, right? I know I've gone on a tangent here, but I just wish, it's distasteful, but it's not illegal. Just win the game no matter what. But instead, we decide not to take the cynical yellow. They square it to Tyreek George, who I guess is in the box somewhere relatively central. And then he has he didn't look that fast, but it was really well placed, just past Leno in the corner. Low and reasonably fast, but better, really well placed. And that, I think, that was a real dagger in the heart moment. That was a real, they've been knocking. There was an opportunity from Neto earlier that they probably should have scored. Somehow Leno catches it with his ankle and it spins and he managed to grab it. That, I think, was the first warning sign that we really need to change something. I think that might have been before the Kearney switch, perhaps. But their goal, yes, you can argue it was well worked, but when you completely gut your midfield's defensive capabilities, I don't know what we can say. I thought our defense had done pretty well until that point. Tete was fine. Anderson was all right. Bassi was immense as always. Robbo was fine, but they kept knocking, and as much as I hate to admit it, they probably deserved it in the second half alone. They seemed much more on it than we did.
Yeah, actually, from my hazy recall is that it was actually a misplaced clearance from Anthony Robinson that turned over the ball and actually allowed them to score that, if I'm correct. I could be wrong, but I think that's what happened. Look, after so some 83rd minute they scored the equalizer, and then a minute later we make another substitution, another double substitution. Alex Iwobi comes off for Adama.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, okay, give Adama a go. It's a frustrating one for me, Adama, because I think somewhere between we haven't been using him very well, and I don't think his form's been great of late. But okay, and Jimenez for Vinicius. I mean, interesting. Obviously, you'd love to see Muniz come on at about the 70th minute and really run ragged at them and make a difference. And you'd think stand a decent chance in a big game like this to score. Not that Vinicius has not scored in a Chelsea fixture before. He's certainly pulled off some heroics, and to be honest, he actually in his brief little moment there, he was a bit of a nuisance. His skill level wasn't very high. He couldn't actually carry the ball with him, but he did try. And I mean, at that point, I guess worth trying something. But by the time you'd taken Lukic off, Sessegnon, Tete, who had to go, and taken Alex Iwobi and Jimenez out, you've really taken the knife to this Fulham team on a day where we possibly didn't have our very best starting 11 out in any case. And at that point, you've really destabilized us. And go on. Sorry, Mark. What were you going to say?
I was going to say this is just the one last roll of the dice, isn't it? It's almost like making subs for the sake of using all five. I don't really see. Yes, Vinicius put himself about, and that was endearing to us fans. It's always nice to see a Chelsea defender get clattered, or whoever he shoved. I don't know. Maybe it was Sanchez. But yeah, it was. I don't really see what we were trying to achieve there, other than changes for the sake of changes. Disappointing.
Yeah,
but, I mean, this isn't who we want to come on, right? I'm sorry to interrupt, but let me just
finish
this point real quick. Look at Chelsea's subs, right? And I know we're not the same stature, but just look at Malo Gusto, Tyreek George, who I didn't know, to be fair. I guess he's academy. Who else? Sancho, a few others maybe that are probably equally as impressive. And we're bringing on Vinicius and out of form Adama and Kearney. Like,
Yeah, that says everything, doesn't it? I mean, really, we're expecting a lot, and look, these guys are trying their heart out. Silva's trying to play 3D chess with, and it seems trite to be complaining about the money we're spending, but we are playing the billionaires game here, and spending is the name of the game. You can't look at it any other way. If you have any ambition, you've got to be spending wisely, no doubt, but you've got to be spending big money. You cannot be disappointed when an opposition side can bring on a couple of utter superstars and rip you to shreds in the 80th minute. It's going to happen. It has to happen more often than not. And, so that is our destiny. While we either won't spend the money that we truly need to, or we don't have the ambition that perhaps the fan base believe we should. I mean, I guess it's as simple as that. And I think I just want to stop short of blaming Silva, because I think he's got a really, really difficult job to do. It's not simply a matter of, you or I, as punters and fans, we're not going to, we simply wouldn't be good enough to take even the best teams out there and win games and put strategies together. We know that you can spend $1 billion and still not be successful. It sometimes takes years and years and the right manager to bring the egos together and actually find a system that works for these, handful of superstars that you've got. So for Marco Silva to be able to get what he gets out of this team of very, very good professionals, but by no means Champions League level, elite, world-class players. A couple of them are, but most of them aren't. And that's, so that's where we are. But through all the disappointment that I felt yesterday, one thing I kind of forgot was that this is yet another time that we've lost to a barrage of late goals. Well, barrage, a couple of goals, but still, we've lost a game. We were still in it with a point until the 93rd minute, and once again, we've lost late in the game and dropped points and taken home nothing. And I haven't been tracking other teams and whether this is a common tale and it just happens. And maybe there's 8 other sides in the Premier League that have done this throughout the season as well. But I don't think they have. I think it's us.
No, it's us. It's us. Just to jump in there, I think we were on the leaderboard before this game for 22 points dropped from winning positions. I think we were second in the league. That must put us up to 25 now. 25 points lost through winning positions, which tells me our game management, let's be blunt, it's shit. Our game management is
but is it,
it's atrocious.
Is it quite, I think you're right, but I think it's a real combination of many things, because guess what? If you can bring on 4 superstars who can immediately slot into the team, and the standard, the tempo doesn't drop, the form doesn't drop, the structure doesn't drop, it's easier to manage the game. But if you actually destabilize things by dramatically changing the quality of the side out on the pitch, and you drop a goal, suddenly you're running backwards, and so it does become logarithmically more difficult to actually manage the game and continue to play positively, or maybe simply just hold the damn ball. Right. So it is about quality in the very end, because Man City for their squad, and potentially Liverpool as well, could change the whole damn team at halftime and possibly still have a stable outcome. Right.
It's quality. I think it's also focus. I really think somehow we lose. I don't know whether we get nervous, but we can feel it as fans, or I can feel it at least. I am very nervous the last 15 minutes of any Fulham game, especially if we're winning. The other teams seem to know, like, hey, these guys crack under pressure. We just got to keep hitting them. And they have nothing to lose, right? And our problem, and maybe Adamo is meant to alleviate this, is we need a credible threat on the counter. Just like if, I don't know, Forest are under pressure, they're just going to release Alanga, and then he's going to go and he's going to have a shot on goal.
I mean, it seems so simple to me. Imagine Adama, as Jack was saying yesterday, take Jimenez off, put Adama up front. Not Vinicius, put Adama up front. And Adama just sits on the halfway line, and all we do is
launch it up to him. Yeah.
Launch it over the back and give him 15 yards to run onto it every single time. Even if it isn't effective and it doesn't result in a goal, it'll terrify teams in terms of what could be, and they'd constantly be looking over their shoulder, and actually will shake their ability to actually run over the top of us quite arrogantly for the last 10 or 15 minutes. If all we're doing is just holding up, and then releasing Adama for the last 10 minutes. I mean, it's pretty simple stuff, but it could really put another team on the back foot. Even
100%.
even if you're not playing him through the middle and you're just playing him down the wing into the corner, and then we send 2 or 3 players into the box at speed, arriving to take his cross. You know, I mean, I know that's suddenly becoming very, very open, and you do run the risk of actually you're losing possession when his substandard cross doesn't come in. We lose the ball, and then suddenly they hit us on the counter. But nevertheless, it would give teams more to think about in those dying minutes rather than just trying to get their foot on our throats, and really pressurize us. Which I don't know. I don't know what else we can do, but I just feel like it's a composite. It's a composite thing that I know you say you feel it in the stands, and maybe the players feel it too. And maybe when you start actually doing it so many times over the course of a season, even the players start to kind of get anxious that this is how this game could end. You know, it's like a group confidence thing, isn't it?
Just to jump on that, I think a real problem is we don't have any leaders, right? Mm-hmm. We don't have that Kevin McDonald figure, right?
Yeah.
That drags us up, says, lads, it's 10 minutes from making history. Give it everything. G everyone up, right?
Right. You're right.
I think we've said it before. We have people who try and lead through example, you know, working really hard.
Jeez, I really want Anderson to be that guy. I thought he was that guy, you know. I really thought he was that guy.
Yeah, I'm surprised because he was Parker's man. He was made captain under Parker, and he seems to give a shit about the team, which is nice. But yeah, we need someone vocal. We need a warrior, and that person will push us through, and we will stop dropping points.
Because love him for the uniqueness that is Anthony Robinson, but that is not him. He's a gentle man. You know, he's more likely to bust out a sonata in the change room at halftime than he is to, you know, gather people around and really put a rocket under them, almost commando style, like you were saying. Just reminding them of what's at stake and how much there is to run and what we've got to do here, and really rallying the troops to dig in.
Yeah,
because I think that makes a huge amount of difference. You know, even if he's got to do that every 3 minutes, every 2 minutes for the last 10, it actually works. It definitely works.
Oh, 100%. It's going to work once we start getting those wins, right? They may be a bit like, oh, this guy's on my back during the match. But if we drop 10 points instead of 25, then, I mean, it works. So, I mean, one last thing I want to mention on that is kind of a bit of a backhand compliment. But the fact that we've dropped 25 points actually means we must attack really well in the first half, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't even be in that position to be dropping points. So it would appear, and, you know, we can dig deeper into this, but it would appear like we're very good at attacking. We're very good at taking the lead. Then comes holding on to the lead. I think Marco needs to this season is too late now. We have the players we have. It's coming to the tail end of the seasons. Players are exhausted. There's not enough time to change strategy radically. But over the summer, if he stays, and I hope he does, I know he says he has 1 season left and we're trying to renegotiate, but if he stays, clearly the attack is all right. I wouldn't mind a little extra firepower, but we need to figure out how to hold on. If we can hold on, like Forest, like Palace, whoever else. I know maybe Palace is not the best example after shipping 10 goals in 2 games, but pre 2 game ago, FA Cup, Palace, right?
Sure.
If we can figure out how to do that, then we're laughing. But like I've said before in the chat, it's worrying because I doubt we will have a season where Tottenham, Manchester United, and West Ham are this crap. One or more of those will be much better next season. I'm almost certain of it.
Agree more.
So we've really blown it by dicking around in the January window. You know, when Villa, yes, they are a bigger club, But when Villa bring in Rashford, that's a gamble. But they bring in Rashford and they bring in Asensio from PSG, an attacking winger slash 10. And now they're having a great season. And we bring in Willian from a free. I mean, the way some of our fans speak, it's like we're paying for the players. Like, oh, well, we got to be clever with our money. There's no value in January. Brentford found value in January. Crystal Palace found value in January, and we managed to. Yeah, I don't know what we're doing with our money. I don't know where the Stansfield money's gone. I don't know where the Polinia money's gone. But yeah, rant over.
Oh.
We can move on.
Yeah. Well, Mark, I think we've done just about all we can do on this. I feel better. I feel sorry for those who didn't make it today because we have had our therapy session. I think you feel better. I can see a slightly rounder edge to the edge of your mouth. I can see more smile than sneer. So that's a good thing. So yeah, I'm ready to wrap it up and move on to next week. Just before we do go, just a reminder to everyone once again to please give our Discord channel a go. It's a really, really lovely place to talk positively about everything Fulham. So please jump on there, absolutely free, and join. I think it's around nearly 500 people now who are enjoying the chat. And it's a very vibrant and active place where people from all around the world are talking everything Fulham. Mark, I think time to wrap up. One other reminder as well. We'll be back on Thursday for After Dark, previewing the weekend's game, and so please. Put that in your diary and in your calendars to join the guys and girls for Thursday night if you are around and available. I now have an even bigger task than managing and seeing a game out. I've got 3 grandchildren under the age of 5 to put to bed in this very room when I turn my screen off and my microphone off. And that could be a bigger challenge than all of us have faced in the last 24 hours. But I'll see how I go. Mark, thank you so much for joining me. I've had a very pleasant and lovely chat with you, insightful comments from you, and great thoughts and questions from you as always.
Elton, it's been amazing. I do feel better. As an Asian, I crave the approval of my elders, and you've given that to me. So very, very pleased. But yeah, let's see what we can do against Southampton. I'm sure they'll discuss that on After Dark. But yeah, feeling better and up the whites.
Wonderful. Very happy to oblige there, Mark. I'm younger than you. Didn't you know that? But never mind. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening along. Thanks for everyone for following on the live stream. Sorry, a little bit undermanned today, so couldn't walk and chew gum and type some responses to you, but always grateful for people who join along and listen along. Please, again, please do pick up the podcast if you've only caught a couple of snippets of this and haven't had the time. And we look forward to seeing you when we next talk about the highs and lows of what it is to be a Fulham fan. And until then, it's come on, you whites.